There are many ways to cultivate a space of home, perhaps as many ways as there are persons who desire to live a sense of home. Hearth Magic is a way to cultivate home that centers the element fire and its blessings. Fire and humans have always had a deep love story. If you have or choose a space, meaning a relatively small portion of the land surface of the planet, to begin with, the space may not be home. The space is a neutral canvas waiting for magic. One may then induce change and introduce difference into the space, so that an immersion experience arises that we describe by the word home. Refuge. The placement of element in any given space is what induces difference in that space. Thus, if one's purpose is to cause the experience of home and hospitality to arise within the space, then one would set conditions of, place a recipe of, elements whose sum and synergy culminates in the arising of home. In Hearth Magic, the first placement and canon element is fire, the firePLACE, the placing of fire. That is, fire is set as the center of the space, of the home, or what will become the home. This center may or may not be in the actual geometric center. Sometimes that is the case. One could set a nice fire pit equidistant from all edges of the space. But, for example, if you imagine a tavern, often the firePLACE, the hearth, is part of a side wall, so it is not spatially equidistant, but it remains as the energetic center or master of the space around which all other elements and immersion experience orbits. Working magically with any space, whether in terms of the hearth tradition or any other art, a good rule of thumb is to first choose or intuit the center. Then, the second choice is to determine the boundary and threshold of the space. The threshold is the entrance to the space. The boundary may be open, so that the boundary is synonymous with the threshold, or the boundary may be closed, and the threshold is in one or a few set positions in the boundary. The threshold is the membrane where change and difference are registered by those who enter therein. The threshold is the step where the magic begins, where the person entering leaves the knot and comes into whatever magic has been wielded within the space, the immersion. The art of threshold is an extraordinary magic, both for those who claim the privilege of creating one, and for those who come across thresholds in their human adventures. And who among us has not stepped across a threshold and come to behold and bathe in whatever magic was within? In Hearth Magic, the threshold is a threshold between what is not refuge and what is refuge, specifically a refuge engendered by fire. The setting and interplay between center and threshold is a major key of influence. Again, more broadly than applying this magical principle within Hearth Magic, the joining of center and threshold is a great and exquisite harmony. For Hearth Magic, the influence is upon humans, upon the human body, and thus to spin a human experience. Of course, bunny rabbits and puppies, etc., may also be drawn to hearths and homes, but the main aim of influence would be for humans to have an experience of defense, rest, nourishment, and recovery. I invite you to choose the center of the space you are now in, and or in the space you will be working with to create hearth. I say choose, but what is more likely is that you will ask the space to show you the center and or the hearth. Trust that you will intuit the reply. Depending on the space, it may not necessarily be a fire-centered place, but just have that conversation with the space and see what is so, or what possibilities could be so. Every space has its energetic center. You can also explore what the boundaries and threshold or thresholds are or could be. In upcoming videos of the Hearth Magic series, we will continue to learn lots of details of conditions we can set to effect these immersions. Obviously, I'm not telling you to light any fires in places where that would be inappropriate and also dangerous. I will talk about fire and hearth replacements and representations in the future in this series. We live in a different world than a quaint cottage and tavern world. But we can call this same spirit of hearth into our today with elements that we do have at hand. So I will talk with you again next time. Blessings.